Alright, what's up everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Darium's Competitive Pokemon. Gonna be rolling some more games on Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. I've got my Gardevoir GX deck, but I've made some edits to it. I'm now trying out some different techs. I got a promo Giratina in there to see if that helps at all with the Greninja matchup, since the Greninja matchup can get a little nasty. I am also trying the Espeon GX line. Now, I was a little skeptical of Espeon GX in here originally. It seems, more gimmicky than anything. I don't like that Magical Ribbon can get end away. That being said, Espeon GX's GX attack is very powerful. Being able to pick up two of your opponent's bench Pokemon, throw them back into the hand can be very disruptive and can make it easier for Gardevoir to just sweep whatever is in the active. So I think that's really good. It's very powerful in the mirror as well, since your opponent just has to play around Espeon GX. If you get a Espeon GX out, they have to deal with it. They can't just go ahead and set up Gardevoirs as normal, or they'll just get scooped up. So looks like we did start Eevee, so fantastic. I'm going to get to show off that energy evolution, hopefully. My opponent appears to be playing an Espeon Garbodor deck, so pretty standard archetype here. I'm not exactly sure how good it's going to be heading forward, just because Garbodor kind of gets nerfed by Espeon quite a bit. Espeon does damage, increased damage for the amount of energy on the opponent's Pokemon, but takes three energy itself, so it gets knocked out pretty easily by Gardevoir. Now Gardevoir does, Gardevoir does put a lot of energy on itself though, so it's possible for Espeon to do a decent amount of damage to Gardevoir. I am a little bit disappointed that with this list that I'm running right now, I did have to make some concessions just to be able to fit the Espeon line in here. So I'm running a 2-2 line in this version of the deck. That means that some things have gotten thinned out, unfortunately. So this hand is ugly. I mean, straight up, this hand's pretty ugly. I'm going to want to get an energy evolution play, which means that I'm gonna need a fairy energy. So I think I'm going for an N here, since my opponent does have 4 Trubbish out. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna want to keep these field blowers because my opponent's probably gonna evolve into Garbodor, which means that we're gonna go grab an N. So I'm gonna Ultra Ball my Ultra Ball and that Gardevoir away. This is why we play 4 Gardevoirs, just to be able to see. Alright, so we do have 2 left in deck, meaning that we got 3. Okay. And I'm going to go grab Tapu Lele, and we're just going to end this boy away. And hopefully we grab Fairy Energy. So we do play a good amount of Fairy Energy in here. Unfortunately, I had to cut the Professor's Letter in order to fit it, in order to fit the Espeon line. So, we do have a slightly decreased chance of hitting it than we would have if I was playing the Professor's Letter, but we do play 9, so that's pretty high odds, pretty good odds. Like my chances. I don't think I'm going to use my field blower yet. I mean, I could make my opponent find another float stone, but they'll probably be able to find it. I'd like to get two tools or 2 things removed with my field blower, and it looks like we did not get anything. So we got a double colorless, and we didn't even get a Ralts. That was a pretty horrible draw there. Not too much I could have done about that, so we're just gonna pass. Got the DC on my Tapu Lele, and hopefully we could stabilize here. Oh, my opponent's playing Enhanced Hammer. Didn't see that coming. Most of these lists are not running energy removal, Enhanced Hammers, things like that. But I guess now that Garbodor is kind of decreasing in popularity, unbelievable. Look at this hand too. Sheesh. Okay, but we didn't get knocked out. Just got a Psybeam there, so all is well in the world because we can energy evolution and get ourselves out of this hand. This hand is actually completely fine. I could, funny enough, Acerola the Eevee, Float Stone my Tapu Lele, retreat back into Eevee, and then use the Magical Ribbon. I actually kind of like that because then I heal the Eevee, make it a little harder to knock out, and also I get Acerola in the discard, so I don't really mind that at all. Let's just go ahead and do it. Lift that back. We're going to promote. Sure, let's promote a Ralts, and we'll put a Float Stone on the Ralts. Put the Eevee back down. Energy Evolution. Yep. Let's go get that nice Rainbow Rare Espeon that I got. Cool. grab that thing, and let's rock and roll. So we're a turn behind. That was a little annoying, but my opponent didn't get any of their evolutions out either. So now we can Magical Ribbon. We're going to be able to grab a Gardevoir, a Rare Candy, and an N. Okay, cool. I'm down with that. I mean, that seems pretty good. I'm cool with that. Magical Ribbon, you know, showing off its stuff right there. That was pretty nice. Now, even if my opponent does end my hand away, that hand was dead anyhow. So that's a pretty neat thing that Sylveon can pull off that Diancie would not have been able to do. You know, get me out of that dead hand there. So that was pretty nice. Fancy little trick. Unfortunately, you know, I imagine, let's see. I wonder what my opponent's going to do. They could divide GX. They could knock out a Ralts and put 40 damage onto another one. That would be a little annoying. Yep. And it looks like that's what they're probably going to do. I imagine they'll knock out a Ralts and they'll either damage the Sylveon or they'll damage the other Ralts. I'm not sure which is necessarily the better play. I think I like just damaging the Ralts, but looks like they're going to go for the Sylveon, at least put 10 on the Sylveon. Okay, and they'll probably just put 40 on the Sylveon then. Oh, they're going to diversify their options a little bit. Just kind of put 20 and 20. That's totally fine too. You know, gives them a little bit of better numbers on the Sylveon. They only have to hit 180 for a knockout, which is pretty good. So, let's see. I could evolve my Ralts into a Curlia there. I certainly could. You know, see, the mildly annoying thing is that I don't, you know, if that was a Diancie, then I could have evolved up into a Ralts this turn, or into a Curlia, which means that all I'd have to do is slap down a Gardevoir, and then I would have had the Gardevoir. So you can see how, you know, Sylveon kind of lacks in that department. Let's see. But my opponent still doesn't have any Garbodors out in play. I have a couple of items down. Let's go ahead and evolve into Curlia. We're just going to take our time here. I should be able to win this matchup as long as I could just stabilize here eventually. If I could get some Gardevoirs into play, I should be fine. Now my opponent can only do that GX stuff one time, so let's see, I got a double colorless in the discard. That's a little annoying. And I do have some N's down there, so I could, yep, let's just go ahead. Verseeker for the N. And attach. I don't really care to Fairy Wind this thing, so I'm just going to load my energy onto my Curlia. I don't really want to do the 110 just because it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a big difference. At the end of the day, I'm aiming to knock this Espeon out in one hit. I would rather just sit back and Magical Ribbon and try to get set up as quickly as possible. So I'm going to grab, let's see, did I get a supporter for next turn? I did. So I'm just going to try and set up as quickly as I can here. I'm going to grab 2 Gardevoirs and a Rare Candy. Cool. Yeah, so like I said, there's no point in me using Fairy Wind to hit into this Espeon GX because that will just power up my opponent's Psychic attack, and then they could smack my Sylveon back for an increased amount of damage. You see, I did get the DCE off the end, so I would have been able to Fairy Wind, but I would rather just try to do this with, you know, with Gardevoir GX in one hit. So you can see my opponent did get the Lysander here. That's super annoying. And then if my opponent sets up this ability Garbodor 2, which it looks like they're gonna do, this is really rough. You can see my opponent is going ahead very quickly in prizes. It's gonna make things very hard for me to be able to come back and stabilize here. Let's see. I could, you know, there's no point in Plead GXing. I'm gonna want to use Gardevoir's Twilight GX at some point in this game. So let's just throw up the Gardevoir. We're just gonna do that. Gonna Rare Candy here. Yeah, let's put the nice full art into play. You guys could see that. My opponent unfortunately has shut off my abilities. That's annoying, but even with just 1 energy, we're doing a decent amount of damage here. I don't really want to put down the Giratina, but at this point, I might just put down the Giratina so I don't draw it again. You can see I've already lost 2 Ralts, so I'm not really going to even get that many Ralts into play. So I think I'm just going to put the Giratina down just to maximize my odds of drawing well off of this N, and I'm going to end my opponent to 4. Unfortunately, they did have only a 2-card hand, so that, you know, may end up benefiting them, but N is the only draw card that I had. Now I am just going to use Infinite Force, try to get some damage on the board, finally. 120 damage. That's a good amount of damage for 1 energy. You can see that I do have the Float Stone here, so I can retreat if my opponent decides to confuse me. If they decide to, you know, Psybeam me, then I do have that Float Stone to get out of it. So that's pretty good. How many items have I used? 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6. I've used an annoying amount of items. It looks like my opponent is going to Psybeam me. So they do a whole lot of damage because they do have a Choice Band attached. So that's annoying. But I do have the Float Stone, so that's good. I can see I do have, looks like I'm going to have to end again just because I can't afford to discard these Gardevoirs. However, I don't mind messing with my opponent's Skylight either. Good thing I do have the Field Blower though. Oh, did my opponent might have Skylight for that Choice Band. To be honest, I didn't even see it. Anyways, we're just going to go ahead and end. So let's do that. Or I could get the Acerola, but that's just, I'm too far behind at this point. I need to try and set up one last Gardevoir is what I need to do. So I need to get a Ralts into play because I don't think I'm going to be able to take it home with just this thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is bad. I could retreat into Sylveon GX, and I could Sylveon GX and use Magical Ribbon and try to get some more cards to set up. I could just try to attack into this thing, but that seems bad too because then my opponent could just, I could Fairy Wind for knockout. Let's do that. Because I can retreat. I forgot that I had removed my opponent's tool here, so I can Secret Spring, accelerate one of these fairies here onto the Sylveon, and then attach. You know, you don't want to really attach 3 fairy energies to Sylveon, but at this point in the game, it does not matter. I mean, I have not used hardly any energy. And, you know, we're on the ropes, so I need to get going in this game pretty quickly. My hand, you know, for the most part, other than not getting a Ralts, is pretty good, so I don't mind. We're going to go ahead and Fairy Wind and take care of this Espeon. So Espeon's out. We've gone down to 4 prizes, each taking 2 prizes, so that's pretty good. And my opponents do have a field full of Garbodors, so Garbodor is cranking out a decent amount of damage at this point. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I have like 8 in the discard pile. So we are going to need to pull off a GX attack here. If my opponent takes the knockout on the Sylveon, that's ugly. But what I can do, and what I will do, is I will end them if they knock out the Sylveon, and I will use Twilight GX. So that is super, super good. And I'm just going to do that, and then my opponent will be stuck doing like no damage, which is fantastic. So they did get that knockout there. You can see they're doing 210 damage, but they don't really have any other attackers set up, and I am getting ready to end them to 2. So I have to hope that they can't get anything else going here. I could bridge it, but I think I'd rather end them to 2. So let's do that. I'm going to Secret Spring, so we're just going to start accelerating onto this thing. Unfortunately, my opponent did not get a tool on that Garbodor, so that's good. You know, they could potentially be leaving the Garbodor open just so that they don't get into a weird situation where they can't like energy evolve their own Eevee, or they want to draw into Tapu Lele after I end, so that's like a possibility as well. Yeah, so I think my best bet here is just to end and Twilight GX. So let's try that. I'm gonna go ahead and end. Yeah, my hand's gonna be much smaller, but so is my opponent's. Man, I am drawing no Ralts. Where are they at? They are not here. And let's see. So Trash Lance does 20 times. So if I have no items, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have exactly 10 items in the discard pile. So I think I do. I don't know if I want a Field Blower. I would love if I had my Oranguru out too. That would be great. I don't think I want to use the Field Blower yet. I think I want to save it. And then I do want to Twilight GX. So we're going to throw the Field Blower, Rare Candy, Ultra Balls versus Seekers all back into the deck. A Float Stone. And then what? I could throw a double colorless energy, but there's really no point. I think I'd rather just nerf my opponent's damage completely so that I have no items in the discard pile. That way their Garbodor is doing a fat nothing. So now here we are. My opponent's Garbodor isn't doing anything. They have a Choice Band attached. It's actually good that I didn't Field Blower that Choice Band, so it makes it harder for my opponent to get that Garbodor out of the active. That Garbodor's kind of just got to sit there and is at my whim until I do something about it. My opponent did lock up the abilities with their own Float Stone, so that's pretty good. You can imagine they're probably grabbing a Sycamore here. They just want to draw some cards. So if I had Field Blower my opponent's Choice Band here, then my opponent would have been able to just attach Float Stone to the active Garbodor. Then they would have had options to do more damage to me. Maybe they're going for a double colorless energy here. We'll attach it and Acid Spray me. That would actually be really annoying. But if they do Acid Spray me, then they'll have 3 energies on themselves, 3, 6, 9, 12. I can knock them out with 1 Fairy energy if they do Acid Spray me. But if they Acid Spray me, right, then all they need is like a double colorless or something on a Tapu Lele, and they'll be able to knock me out. So that's an Acid Spray for like 100 damage. That's super frustrating. They didn't get it, but that's actually fine for my opponent because they, could just knock me out with that Tapu Lele for game. So I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this one out. This is looking really brutal. Let's go ahead and Field Blower here. We have a Sycamore. We have to play it. We can't not play it. So got a Sycamore. Unfortunately, that puts a lot more things in my opponent and my discard pile. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I could go up with the Tapu Lele. That's not going to do much. I could Ultra Ball. I don't know. This is rough. Let's see. I got an Ultra Ball here. Gonna Ultra Ball away my N and my Hex. Yikes. I don't think that it's possible. Let's see. I just got rid of 2 rare candies. There's still more rare candies in there. Let's grab the Ralts. You gotta imagine with this hand that my opponent does have a Lysander. I can't just knock out the Garbodor because then all my opponent needs is like an energy and a Garbodor. They can knock me out, or a double colorless energy, 2, 4, 6, 8, 80 damage. Yep, that's enough to get me too. So I have to retreat into something. Let's see, we'll put down the Ralts and the Eevee. Another problem that we've had this game, and you can see this is another kind of downfall of the, let's promote the Giratina. This is kind of a downfall of the Sylveon version of the deck, is that I've had a hard time forcing my opponent into an odd prize game. With the Diancie version, you really have no problem doing that because you could just make them take down Diancie and then make them take out EXs for the rest of the game, or GXs. But then, you see, at this point, my opponent was just able to take down that Garbodor, or take down that Gardevoir and end the game there. So that's it. Rough start for me, kind of just awkward go of it. I didn't really like, that was my first game, to be honest, playing with the Sylveon version of the deck, but I didn't really love it. I'm going to invest some more time into it, though, to see if it could start to show up. But I felt like that was a good matchup, and I should have been able to win it. But as you can see, the deck just never got stabilized, and Sylveon just seemed less consistent than the Diancie that I had been using previously. So I don't know. The verdict's still out. Let me know what you all think. How should we be building Gardevoir? Do you think Diancie? Do you think Vulpix, Alolan Vulpix with the Beacon attack, or do you think Diancie? What's your favorite way to build it? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace.